So I just won a tournament. My friends and family have been very supportive of me as of the past few months. I've been entering a points-based tournament in Beyblade X, and I wanted to showcase my winning team. I finally got first place. Um, so this is the team that I use, and I'm going to be going over these combos and what they're used for, and how to utilize them, as well as some variants to help use guys. But before that, I want to give a huge shout out to Miguel, the tournament organizer. Miguel Santiago managed to get his hands where I'm at in Florida. There's not a lot of Wave 2, and this is the Hasbro Wave 2. And he managed to get his cousin in California to get these bays as prizes, the Hasbro Wave 2. So I am super excited because Sphinx is one of my favorite blades, but I think Tyranno has just replaced it. I love Hell Scythe, and I used Hell Scythe the last two tournaments. I love it. So this yellow recolor is, I like the green, but this yellow is just amazing. And then this is going into collection because I already have my competitive unicorns thing, and the dot that I have in my video for how to use Wizard Arrow or the Wizard Arrow combo. Like I already have dot and red, and that's in the collection. I use the dot, but I haven't used the red. This is stock combo. This is, well, obviously I've revealed the combo, but I figured I would just give him a shout out because he really went through it getting us Wave 2. Let's start off with my primary lead. My primary lead in this has been this. This is my Dran sword of 1,000 battles. This was the first Beyblade X I got, and my wife, Rara, shout out to you, baby. Thank you for all the times I'm like, babe, I gotta practice. Hold on, I gotta focus. You can see it is scarred up to the point where the metal is starting to get infused or has been infused with that plastic. But this is the lead. And the reason why this is the lead is because most people will focus. Do you want to focus? Well, anyways, it is Drawn Sword, as you can see, and it is 460 in Rush. Now, why 460 in Rush? First off, if you notice, the Rush bit tends to put all the weight, sort of like low flat, right? It's very flat, which means it gets fast and aggressive quickly. And also, it doesn't lose too much stamina riding the extreme rail for knockouts, using this different gear ratio. Now, the attacks are less powerful, but they're more frequent. And most people are running things like Unicorn Sting, for instance, on Ball or Orb. So Phoenix Wing, even a lot of them are running it on Phoenix Wing on Point. So the issue is that most of those don't grab the base stadium well, number one. Number two, the 460. Why 460? Well, because it puts, first off, the 60 height means that the weight is closer to the top rather than being somewhat distributed to the bottom in this actual bit. And 460, while it is somewhat easy to burst, unless they're running something like Shark Missile, low flat, or if they're running like low flat, there's not much that's going to burst a Drawn Sword, because it's one of those things where Drawn Sword usually does the busting up. Now, Worn Drawn Sword is difficult to use, but I told myself I was going to use this Drawn Sword no matter good, bad, whatever. And like Damien, who's one of my best friends, was even amazed what I could do with stock combo. But admittedly, you want to use this. It will take more skill, but this is the better setup. You're going to get, first off, if you wanted to tilt and launch straight, if you rip really hard and you tilt your launcher like this, if you have somebody who's controlling the center using a taper defense setup or whatever, you can just rock back and forth left and right. And what will happen is, as they're being mobile, they're either A, going to get hit into, if the stadium is facing, right? So you go like this, right? Regardless of which side you're on, it tends to rock back and forth, especially on like low flat, flat, and also this rush bit. And it tends to pendulum. So you can control the center with that. Also, the rush bit, as weird as this is going to sound, I kind of figured out if you're facing a stadium and the stadium is this way. So when you're facing it, if you're on the left hand side, where like Dragoon would ride the left rail, you can actually launch very close and get it to ride the left side. And so while they extreme dash, they end up missing you, either self KOing or ending up in the center. You line up for a shot. So that's the point. I'm never at a disadvantage, and I am the most experienced with Drawn Sword. This is my favorite Bay in all of Beyblade X. I don't like Drawn Buster and I don't like Drawn Dagger, but a Drawn Sword this color, I have one specifically for collection that I don't use. This one's going to be retired, and then I'm going to buy another. I have a red one that I'm going to actually be using because taper is also really good. You could run 360 taper or 560 taper. The other one is red and black though. I'll be buying another one of those for collection. But this is my lead. Why this? Because if they lead, most people are going to end up leading with 960 Hexa Wizard Rod or some variant of Wizard Rod. This will do the job. I recommend if you're inexperienced and you're not great with technique, do yourself a favor, get a couple new Drawn Swords. A fresh Drawn Sword hits harder, or just use Phoenix Wing. If you're a beginner, you can also use Phoenix Wing instead. But if you love Drawn Sword, this is it. Secondly, Sphinx Cowl. I've heard a lot of stuff that this Bay is bad. I disagree. I don't know why people feel that way. I think it's just because it takes skill to use. Mine is pretty heavily worn. You can see the bits. I do a lot of down smashing with this build, and you can see the ratchet is. This is from Drawn Busters. 2 Drawn Busters did this basically to this ratchet, but it didn't burst, and there's a reason for that. So first off, this downward smash helps to protect the 480 ratchet from bursting. Even when pressure is applied here, like you can see, if pressure gets applied here to the actual ring, that makes this an 80 ratchet in its height, and it's still fine. I'm running the Unite. This is the Unite that does not have focus. This is the Unite that actually does not have the little pin on it. So why this? Now you would want to run like a red taper here, or you could run 460 or 360, whichever you prefer, and run regular taper, or high taper. I use this Unite because of skill ceiling. I'm used to running Sphinx Cowl. I run it all the time. I'm used to running it on taper, high taper. I can utilize this really well, and it works really good. So the idea of this is that A, I have more stamina with this bit than I would with taper. B, when I swing in for a hit, this amplifies it. I can, however, utilize this as both attack and stamina. And again, this is to, it's a defensive Bay, it's a defensive setup, but I can't slam it into a, excuse me, I could tilt it down on an angle to get under Wizard Rod and lift it up. When you do that, the upper on this blade is insane because like Rhino on low flat, how it just gets under things, you can do the same thing kind of with Rhino, but this is heavier. And so you don't need low flat to let it get super aggressive because there's not a lot of traction, but there is some. It's like Ball and Taper had a baby. So my whole goal with this is to either, like if you're looking at the Bay Stadium and it goes like this, and these are the McDonald's arches of the X rail, you can launch to the left and avoid Drawn Buster entirely. Because what will happen is you'll go there, you'll either get a little bit stuck, not so much in the Hasbro Stadium, but into Karatomi, you could just kind of avoid them and you have the stamina, and then you can end up sort of going down from the left and hitting. You can do one of my favorite techniques, which is actually launching. When they use that same technique to ride the rail on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, you can launch into the rail and aim it at a spot where you know that they're going to hit the X-rail first and ride it. And their Drawn Buster will ride the X-rail because Drawn Buster is too hard to control on most setups. So it's just going to do naturally. It's going to ride heavy. It's going to swing itself to the line, ride the rail. You can get your knockout on it with this because you're going behind it and knocking it out as well. On top of this, it has great downward smash. So Phoenix Wing does not like this getting knocked into the stadium constantly. Phoenix Wing does not have round-shaped blades, and the 480 helps to keep it up. It's very difficult for them to deal with. Now, admittedly, taper is the better combo with a lower skill ceiling, but I prefer Unite. Use Taper. And lastly, we have Unicorn Sting. My Unicorn Sting is 560 because we can't have repeating parts. I could, hello, focus. I could have run. This one is fairly worn. So everything has to be an attack type to get rid of Wizard Rod. If I were to have led with this, which I didn't, it ended up being kind of my final, in our 3-deck format, my final pick. So why Unicorn Sting on 560 Taper? Why didn't I use Point, or even the stock combo Gear Point is good. I like Gear Point. It's a more aggressive form of Point. Why would I use Taper? Well, there's a handful of reasons. Taper is a balance type bit. It is both attack and defense oriented with a tiny bit of stamina. It does all three. One of the nice things about Taper on this setup, and again, you can definitely use regular Point. That is going to be the easiest to use it with. You can use Gear Point, but it's a little bit more of a skill ceiling. But overall, Unicorn Sting here on 560 and Taper is really good because, number one, if I want to kind of stamina launch it and sort of do a more evasive pattern, I can. If I want to launch, if I notice a pattern like with how they launch and they're occupying a certain space, Taper makes it very easy that I don't even have to necessarily kind of, like when you launch, you know, I don't kind of have to like force the bay into that direction. A lot of times I could force it somewhere near and then have it ride. Or another really fun thing to do with Taper is have it double ride. With this setup, you can launch if you're lined up with the right side. So again, McDonald's arches, right? If you are lined up here on this side to shoot this way, you can have it double ride if you launch it hard enough to do a double attack. Secondly, Phoenix Wing does not really like Taper because Taper tends to have more traction than regular Point. And that's what most people run on Phoenix Wing, which causes it to kind of get knocked out. Granted, Gear Point, you can self-KO, but it just takes more skill. Once you learn Gear Point, you realize it's far more aggressive. But Taper is also very aggressive and still maintains stamina. But really it comes down to, this is just strictly a Phoenix Wing breakdown of stamina, deal with whatever attack type is there. So that's my overall team. One of the hardest parts actually for this team, believe it or not, is actually Hell's Chain. Hell's Chain is a really good counter to a lot of this team. This deals kind of the best with Hell's Chain because Hell's Chain is very balanced, and I notice this being very Scythe-like. I really like Scythe, and I'm going to have a video coming up where I teach you guys how to, I really do. I love Scythe Incendio. This is like a more Scythe Incendio. Instead of being four-sided, it's two-sided, and then it's asymmetrical. So it kind of feels like, playing this kind of feels like Scythe Incendio or Hell Scythe. I like Scythe-shaped Beyblades. So this is obviously going to be on my team. I adore Dran Sword, and oh God, I love you, Sphinx. So this is my overall team, my competitive team, and what I used to win the tournament. It requires some skill, and you can substitute something if you're a beginner like this. You can definitely run these two and just run Point on this. Run this combo. You can run any ratchet, but definitely the rush. And I would recommend, if you're not going to run like 560, just run the 460. You're probably not going to burst anyways. There's minimal damage, if any, on this 460 because Drawn Sword just doesn't take many hits here. It just doesn't. It does most of the hitting. You could easily sub out, by the way, Drawn Sword for Phoenix Wing. And in this's place, you could run something like, if you wanted to keep Drawn, you could run Wizard Rod here, or you could sub this for instance, Phoenix Wing and have two attackers and then a pseudo attacker. But the key here is that this really throws a lot of bays off balance. And I don't know if you can see it, it's super worn, but you can see that it hits a lot, and it hits really hard when you know what you're doing. And launching directly into your opponent's space to occupy, to put pressure when you have a balance of stamina and attack works really well. So yeah, guys, this is just my team and the team that I ended up using. It's different than what I thought I would. Hello, focus. It's definitely different than what I thought I would initially use, but I'm grateful that I used this. This was a hell of a team, and I think it's absolutely just the coolest team I think you could possibly use. But again, you have able to be used as attack, flat launch, like a regular attack, to ride the rail, knockout Phoenix wing, or I'm sorry, knockout Wizard Rod. Can also be used to down smash Phoenix wing and other attack types, and evade the living daylights out of just about anything else like Dran Buster. Main lead, get in there, get it done, get it dirty. And last but not least, we just have a really good balance type that's geared towards attack and stamina on a driver that's very versatile as well, so it can serve any role I need it to. So that's going to be it for me. This is the team I used to win the tournament. Again, huge thanks to Miguel, because I have not been able to find these anywhere at all. I have not been able to find these Wave 2s anywhere, and I've wanted this Hell Scythe. Because look at it, it's got 4 scythes. It's so cool. I wanted one of these for a collection, and then I've been wanting this so bad. So I'll buy another one of these to beat on. Maybe this will replace Drawn Sword in my lineup. I don't know, because that Drawn Sword needs to be retired. But yeah, so thank you guys so much. Oh, I dropped it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.